Okay, good morning. The lighting is terrible today. Montana has decided to turn to winter, which is always a sad event, but it happens. I want to entitle today's little get together with the heading of nostalgia. And I'm particularly thinking of the times and places that seem to be frozen in our memories. Um, in fact, I've even thought perhaps embedded in our DNA. They seem to be there permanently, only begging to be recalled. And I think you know what I mean. That sense of I've been there before, I've done this before, only if you would. Uh, the awareness of the moment and literally capturing it in its entirety. And by that I mean sight, color, uh, environment, smell, taste, feel. Feel particularly the air, heat, cold, the wind touching your skin. These really poignant things that trigger within ourselves some recollection, some sense of, that you want to pass it on. You want to share it. I'm particularly struck by that notion that, or at least I have that notion, that I need deep down inside, I want to share it. These flashes from the past, these moments in time, I want to share it. I want to share it with whomever is there, and it's triggered, and it's there with me, in me. In fact, I've noticed that it's almost a need. It's almost important to do that. This idea, discussion, whatnot, was recently brought to mind twice in the last 10 days. Several events. The first one was with our daughter Rebecca, and she and I went to the Rifle Club in Billings and spent an incredibly delightful hour target shooting, living together in the sense I think we could both feel it. It was an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous fall day. Just enough wind to tickle you. Just enough heat to be delightfully warm. Smell of gunpowder, smell of the country, the dirt, noises, the crack of the rifles, the background conversation of people enjoying some target shooting. And then, of course, the fact that we were together and spending what we would have to call quality time together. The interesting thing is that I suspect that later in her life, probably long after I'm gone, something will happen and will trigger that moment for her. I certainly hope so, because the recall, at least for me, is always pleasant. It's really deep. In fact, it's amazing how deep these feelings go. I guess I'm struggling a little bit with it because I don't know. I feel it very strongly, and I feel a need to want to share it with you. So, with that thought, comes to mind also the fact that I said embedded in our DNA, and I think I began to contemplate a little bit about we humans as unique creatures in our ability to communicate with one another. And this was brought out in the other event in which several days later my good friend Richard and I were chatting, and again it was a lovely fall day, and we had just spent some time in the garden and were just engaged in conversation. And something I must have said triggered, I must have mentioned Rebecca because it triggered in Richard a recall of his youth and time spent on his family ranch in Florida. And what struck me at the time was he began to recall the time and the place and the feelings and the emotions and the uniqueness, at least for him, and who he was at that time. In fact, it was rather interesting to be an observer to a certain extent in this, because I could literally watch him looking into his face, see him going back and reliving these memories. And you could hear it in his voice, and you could hear it in the inflection as he told the stories. And interestingly enough, he was passionate enough to be able to take me with him. Now, not in the sense that he was experiencing it, but as one other human to another, I literally journeyed back in time with him. And you know, it was a, I don't know, observer. I, I was, I was there, uh, and he relived so much in such a short time. And the other thing that struck me was how well he was able to communicate that. And I know I'm not doing that here. And I think perhaps it's because I lack someone right now to journey with me back to the rifle range, back to my dad, back to that time. And probably if I would do this with Rebecca, it would be different. It would be more real, more appropriate. But uh, I can't right now, and perhaps we'll be able to later. But for now, that's my thought. Um I kind of hope you've enjoyed this little journey. I hope you have soon one of those moments and that you can jump back and relive something that means so much to you and really is such a deep part of who you are. Well, I wish you all the best and carpe diem.